Welcome everybody to this little playthrough and demo of Myth Dungeons. Um, this will be a rough overview of how this Myth mod actually plays, so uh, you can decide for yourself if you want to go through all the trouble of cutting and gluing all those components. And let's dive right in. For this playthrough, I've started a new party consisting of the soldier and the apprentice. And as every new party starting a dungeon adventure, they will start at the Wagon's Cross location. We have the location card right here. For the first dungeon quest we are going to play, you don't have to bother with the front of the location card because all those actions and options you see there will be important after we finish our first quest. So let's not bother too much with the front of the location card and jump right into the dungeon to the reverse side of the location card. On the reverse side, we have we have two sections. We have the rules section for the dungeon, and we have the exploration table section of the dungeon. The card alone won't allow us to play a dungeon quest. What we need, like in a normal, like in adventure mode in Myth, we need a quest card. For this little demo, I've chosen the first quest in Wagon's Cross that you can play, that is Sewer Meat. And as you can see, the quest cards in Myth Dungeon work basically the same way that quest cards in adventure mode work. You have a task section here, the yellow section. You have a success section that tells you what happens when you successfully complete the quest task. And you have a failure section that tells you what happens if you fail the task of the quest. The task for our first quest will be to get down into the sewers of Wagon's Cross and retrieve some of the famous marinated pork for our innkeeper, Aaron Butcher. And yeah, I'd say let's just jump right into it and flip the quest card to its reverse side. And the first thing you have to do when you play a dungeon quest is to gather all the components that are listed on the reverse side of the quest card. All dungeon quest cards have this section at the top that will tell you exactly what components you need. When you've gathered all those components, this also includes which darkness deck to use and which enemies to use in the dungeon, you directly proceed to the setup. To start the setup process, you will need a tile. And this is where things get interesting. I will just put the quest card on the location card for the moment, so we got a little bit more space. And now to set up our first tile, I will draw the top tile from the dungeon tiles deck. I don't know what tile I will draw, and I will place it on the table. So that's our starting tile. Now we go back to our setup section, and on the setup section you will find a square with a black square with a 1 in it, and this will tell you what special setup you have to do for the first tile. So if you go through the section, it tells us to place one exit realm object. Realm object is always abbreviated on those cards to save some precious space. So it says place one exit RO. This means place one exit realm object. To place an realm object, we look at the corresponding realm object cards for this quest. For this quest we have 3 realm object cards: barrel, exit and mushrooms. So now to place the exit, we look at the top section of the realm object card for exit, and there we read that we have to place the exit on a random white corner square. So one random square of those 4 corner squares. And the easiest way to do this is just by rolling. I usually just number the different squares 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. And then I roll, and I roll a 1, so I'll place the exit realm object here. The second instructions for the setup of the first tile tells us that we have to take 3 torch tokens if we don't own any torch tokens. As we are fresh adventurers in Wagon's Cross, we don't have any torch tokens, so we gain those torch tokens. I will explain what they do in just a second when we come to the actual exploration roll. And finally, for the tile setup, we have to place our heroes. Again, the quest card tells you exactly where to place them. In this case, we have to place them opposite of the purple outline squares, so we place them here. So this is the basic setup for the first tile. What happens now is where things get interesting. Now we do our first exploration roll. And to do this, we slide the quest card under the dungeon card so that the similar colored sections form one large exploration table, and we place that combined card down. So now we have an exploration table that has recipes from the dungeon, the Sewers of Wagon's Cross, and recipes from the actual quest. And now we have to roll fate dice. This is the part where those torch tokens come into play. They are quite important for all dungeons and dungeon quests, so I will explain shortly what they actually do. And the idea is that in the dungeon there are dark and light tiles. Dark tiles are usually a lot more dangerous than light tiles, meaning that you have to roll more fate dice when exploring and having a higher probability of bad things happening to you. In contrast to light tiles, for light tiles you have to roll fewer fate dice, and so the probability of bad stuff happening is much smaller. I would recommend that if this is your first game, you should definitely, if you don't get a light tile right away, I will show you how those look. A light tile usually has a light source in the artwork of the tile, and to make sure that's a light tile, there is also a torch token on it. So this would be a light tile. Our heroes have to start now on a dark tile. And as they don't want to roll 6 fate die for the exploration roll because of all the bad things that can happen, they decide to turn the dark tile into light tile, and this is just done by discarding one of the torch tokens. That's it. You have to do nothing more, just discard one of the torch tokens. And now we are going to roll. And we are pretty lucky. I just place those here. Because now we have to resolve the exploration table from bottom to top, like every other myth monster card with special fate recipes. You have to resolve from bottom to top. And as you might see, the only single results that can do anything are darkness results. We don't have any darkness results and we don't have any other doubles. So we are safe for the moment, but what we always have to do in this quest, you can see there is a line with no fate recipe, but there it says always. We always have to place 3 barrel realm objects. So we do this and place 3 barrels on the tile. Again, if we want to know where and how to place the barrels, we look at the corresponding realm object card. We look at the top and there it says we can choose a purple square. So we can choose one of those purple squares to place a barrel. And I will do this. I place 1 barrel here and we have to place a total of 3 barrels. I place another barrel here and I place another barrel here. And the final thing to do is now we have to roll fate dice for each of these barrels. I will do this. And place the corresponding fate die tokens on these barrels. Why? This will allow the hero matching these symbol to have a better chance to actually find something in the barrel. So we place an arcane marker here and we place a rage marker on this barrel. So that's a bit fiddly. It will work better with your with the tokens. And we place we don't have to place the darkness marker because we have no hero matching the darkness fate attribute, so there's no hero who would benefit from this, so we just leave it off. Okay. This concludes the setup for our first dungeon tile, and now we are actually ready to play. For that I will just draw the 5 top cards for each hero. And look at our options. And the Apprentice is pretty lucky. He got a hustle and a blink. So he will be able to take care of those barrels or most of those barrels in the first hero cycle. You remember the task of the quest is to search those barrel realm objects for sewer meat portions. And as we are pretty lucky and don't have any enemies on this first tile, we will use this breathing space and try to loot all those barrels. So the Apprentice will play a hustle for 1 AP, which puts him into aggressive movement mode, and he will move 1, and then he will play blink for another AP, which puts us as 2 AP at 2 APs, and then he will blink right across the blue water spaces, which is pretty handy because those water spaces slow you down considerably. The good thing is they also slow down monsters, but they are pretty hard for heroes to cross. The rules for this water spaces are simple. Moving into a water square works like moving into any other regular square, but moving out of a water square costs 2 MP instead of 1. So that's pretty costly, and if you have to walk across, it takes some time. But the Apprentice was lucky. He was able to teleport right over the the sewer stuff, and he now has still 3 movement points left. He just used 1 movement point to get here and played a hustle, so there are 3 movement points left, and the thing he will do now is he will search those barrels to hopefully gain a sewer mid marker. How does searching a barrel work? Again, we look at the corresponding realm object card, and there we can see the section with the eye. This gives us basic instructions or basic rule section what we can do with this realm object, and it also tells us that if a hero matches the fate attribute of the realm object, he gets a bonus when trying to search it. So in this case, the Apprentice matches the fate attribute, the arcane fate attribute of the barrel. So he gets a +3 bonus when searching this realm object. And that's what he's gonna do. To search the realm object, you look at the line with the little hand and button, and it tells you that you have to spend 1 MP, that's the number in the foot, and this spending 1 MP allows you to roll 1 d10, and you can do this when you're adjacent to the realm object. So let's try to search this one, and the Apprentice gets a 6 plus the 3 point bonus from the fate token. That puts him at 9, and if we look at the resolution table of the realm object down here, we see that everything from 4 to 12 is a success. So yep, we found our first portion of sewer meat. If we look at this little hand symbol, there is a one-time number in it. This indicates that the action or the interaction with the realm object can only be done once. So after you have interacted with the realm object, in this case the barrel, it gets discarded. It doesn't matter if you get a success or a failure. After the first interaction, the realm object gets discarded. So the barrel is removed, but as the search action was a success, we get a sewer meat token. This puts our Apprentice at another 2 MP. He has 2 movement points left, and he will use one of these MPs to search another barrel. Again, he will roll a d10 and gets a 4, and luckily that's just a success. As we saw, 0 to 3 would be a failure, 4 is success. So again, he finds a sewer meat portion. Great. And with his last movement point, he will move over here to the edge of this tile, because he intends to explore. We'll get there the next hero cycle. First, let's have a look what the soldier is doing. Luckily as well, the soldier got a sprint, and he will use that right away to gain additional movement points. This puts us at 3 AP, and the soldier will try to reach that barrel because it has the rage attribute. Again, if she searches that barrel, she will get that +3 bonus, and thereby it will be impossible for her to fail the search roll. So that's pretty good for her to get over there and search the barrel. She will move 1 movement point, another movement point to move into a water space, but now she will need 2 movement points to move out of the water space. It doesn't matter that the next space is as well a water space. The rule is important, or the rule only checks if you are moving out of a water space. So that's an additional 2 movement, which leaves her with 1 movement point left. Again, from here to here, it's 1 movement point, another movement point to move into the water, and 2 movement points to move out of the water square. And now she can try to search that barrel, gains the plus 3 bonus because her primary attribute is rage. And this time she's lucky, because usually that would have been a failure. Again, because of the rage attribute of the realm object, she gets a plus 3 bonus, which makes this roll a success, and the party gains another sewer mid counter. So easy peasy up to now. They decide to do a new hero cycle, so we will discard all the cards that we've played. And now during the refresh phase, we will have to increase the AP by 1. Why, you may ask, but there are no enemies anywhere. Yes, that's correct. But there is a special rule in effect in the dungeon that says high alert. Add 1 AP to the darkness meter during the refresh phase when there are no monsters in the dungeon. And our dungeon momentarily consists of only 1 tile, so we don't have any monsters, so we have to increase the AP by 1. So the darkness is watching us and waiting to strike back. Okay, now we start our second hero cycle. Let's just have a look at the cards we have in hand. Nothing special for the Apprentice and nothing for the soldier at the moment. No move cards. So as we have done everything we can on this tile, we have we have searched all the 3 barrels. We will now move further into the dungeon, and this works basically the same way when we place the first tile. We will draw from the dungeon tile stack and place the new tile we drew. So in this case we got lucky because we got a light tile. Again, you can see there is artwork from light sources on the tile, and there is the torch symbol icon in the tile legend. To place this newly drawn tile, we only have to follow one simple rule. We have to connect a side with arrows. So we can't place it this way because this edge here is closed. It has no arrows. This side has arrows, so we could place it this way. This side also has arrows, or we could place it this way. In this case, it doesn't really matter. We just let's place it this way around. And we'll see in a second why. And now we have a look at our quest card. Just check if there's any special setup instructions for the second tile. As you can see, there are none. There was one for the first tile and one for the target tile, but non-special setup instruction for the second tile. So now we go directly to our second exploration roll. Luckily, we have a light tile, so we only have to roll 4 fate die. We'll do this. And this time we are not that lucky as the first time. We got this result. 2 nature symbols, 1 darkness symbol, and 1 rage symbol. Again, we work our way up from the bottom of the fate recipes to the top. And as you can see, the first thing happening is we have to again place 3 barrels. I will just repurpose my nice little miniatures. Then again, I will roll for fate dice for each of those barrels. And this time we got 2 guile and 1 rage. So we only place the rage token as it is the only token that matches one of our heroes. And then we move further up, and now you see we get an event. In this case we get the event sewer gas. That's because we rolled 2 nature symbols. This event tells us to place a sewer gas marker beside the tile, or you can place it on the tile if you like that more. I usually place it just off the tile to indicate that something is going on there. And this means that when you end your hero cycle on a tile with such a marker, and you have more than 2 action slots occupied, you will suffer 1 damage. The idea is that the room or the area is filled with gas, with poisonous gas, and if you exhaust yourself or do too much, you breathe too much of the poison in and you get injured. So here we have to be careful. We can't really use all our action spots, or we shouldn't. So this will be getting interesting. So now we work our way up the exploration table, and the last result we have to resolve is the darkness symbol. In this case, it tells us that we have to place 6 minions, and this is a good opportunity to explain the spawning rules in the dungeon. I will remove this card just for a second. And each quest card will have a special spawning section symbol marked always by this little monster skull. And this section will tell you how and where to spawn monsters in this quest. For this first quest that we are playing now, it tells us that we have to spawn new monsters at the unexplored tile edge that is closest to any hero. This sounds complicated at first, but it's rather simple. You just check which hero is closest to an unexplored edge. This means an edge with arrows but no tile adjacent to it. And in this case it's rather obvious. We have the soldier here is really close to an unexplored edge, and this is where the new monsters will spawn. So we have to put 6 minions there now. And when we refer to the dungeon quest card once again, we will see that for this quest we will have to use insect monsters, so we will spawn crawlers. And you will always spawn an equal number of melee and range crawlers, and you will always place them on the unexplored edge, and you will always place the melee crawlers first, and then the range crawlers. Okay. So suddenly our hero team has a few monsters behind them, and things are not as relaxed as they were in the beginning. And we are nearing our first darkness cycle, so it starts to get interesting.